1. Fragments of Silicon, number 14 on the periodic table, but number 1 in our hearts.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, Alpha Episode Edition. I say this because this is our actually second episode of the week. Anyway, I'm your host Adam. Joining me as always are Galax, Pettyfan, and Twilight.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
All right. Well, let's get into the news. Galax, why don't you start us off this week?
Well, I enjoyed playing over the past week Owlboy and Ellipsis for the show, and was about to try and start Takapa when I remembered that we have a show tonight, because the weather is pretty terrible, so I didn't go out tonight like I usually do, so I was home early. But I didn't get around to it before the show started, so I haven't done that yet. Still playing Pokemon when I can, too. I don't think I mentioned on this show what I mentioned on MSP. I'm still trying to figure out what I can get for a new cell phone for an affordable price, because mine is starting to break. I have an ancient cell phone.
Yeah. You still have a flip phone. So.
I do still have a flip phone. Because I never wanted to have to change over my contacts and all that stuff, and
you know they can do that at the store when you get your new phone, right?
They couldn't last time.
They should be able to.
Yeah, well, last time was also a long time, and I'm not even sure if they can now, because mine might not be compatible with anything. And also, I don't want to... We've been talking about how we'd handle if we needed more data plans, and me and my sister would have to chip in a significant amount for that, probably, if we had to go up a tier, so...
Yeah, Galax, here's a question. Do you have Bluetooth in your current phone?
I doubt it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, you may actually not be able to transfer information, because... You know.
And it doesn't have a SIM card because we're on Verizon.
What kind of cable does it use?
USB. Not the full size, though. It uses the same kind of cable as one of my portable hard drives.
So it's either micro or mini. So they might be able to plug it into a computer and transfer.
I think it's micro. I can't get pictures off of it through that cable, though.
Jesus.
It's only for power.
Anyway, we'll deal with
I have a terrible cell phone and the hinge is starting to give in, so I need to get a new one. Yeah. Other than that, the most remarkable thing is how reliably the weather has been terrible, because we've had snow 3 or 4 times over the past 7 days or so, and one of those times it was over a foot, so that was not fun clearing. Other than that, I haven't had that much time for other stuff because my shoulders and arms have been sore a lot.
Because of aforementioned snow?
Yep.
Figured. Alright, Twilight, you're up.
Nothing remarkable happening as usual.
Does anything remarkable ever happen to you?
I think there's a log.
Not very often.
In Kentucky.
It's just where I live. It's nothing much goes on here. Let's see now. That is normal everyday life.
Train yourself. All right, let's just move on.
Yeah.
Pettyfan, what's going on with you this week?
Still been chiseling away at Digimon World Next Order, and I also finally decided to sit down and finish off Digimon World Dusk because I've had that game since like 2013, and it's just been sitting in my little game 3DS game case, and I was like, you know what? Why not?
I had some trouble with Dusk because you kind of have to grind after the intro segment and before the first dungeon.
Also, the encounter rate is freaking terrible, but that's a story for another time.
Right.
Other than that, just been doing stuff for the show. I also rented Transformers Devastation, I believe it is.
I think that's on sale this week on Steam. Like,
Yeah.
It's going for $10, so...
I might
Yeah.
see about getting that and then just sending this game back. Because the PS4 version's not bad.
No, but, it's $10.
Yeah.
It's not a bad price for it. I'd pick it up if I had, like, any time to play games outside of games for the show these days.
I was debating picking it up, but I'm not sure I could run it.
Yeah.
Well, it had last-gen version, so it should be...
It should be able to scale down for your computer since, you could kind of run, Dark Dreams Don't Die. So you should be able to run this.
Yeah, I think that game was pretty terribly optimized, too.
Yes,
but yeah,
yes, it was.
No, my computer runs better than I think it does, but it's not great.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, other than that, not really a whole lot's been going on.
I guess
It's good because when something is going on, it usually involves misery.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's got his own theme song on the show. If you're just joining us, the universe hates Pettyfan and will conspire to harm him in various ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, Adams.
We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I guess it's my go.
Yep.
Let's see. Personal news. My mother's feeling better, both in terms of her leg and her overall health. So that's a relief. I don't have to do tasks for her anymore. Although a friend of hers is embroiled in some sort of drama. I don't know. I really wasn't paying attention. As far as I go, nothing really different from last week. Like in show news, let's see. We recorded an episode with Throwback Entertainment yesterday morning. That is available on all of our sites now. I do apologize that we've been having a bit of problems getting the podcast version of the programming out. Pettyfan's been having some problem with downloading it from Twitch. We have found a workaround around that, so hopefully, the podcast versions will be up, quicker than say half a day going forward. Let's see. Max Indiegogo campaign should be launching here soon, I think. We don't exactly know when it's launching. He could be doing it on MSP. He could be doing it after MSP. But
yeah, it's supposed to be today, but it isn't yet. So that is a pretty narrow window.
Yeah. So hopefully he's got everybody in place this time. So there's no delay to tomorrow. And we got to hear about it. All right. I think I'm about to do it for news. Yep. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of our broadcast, and we are welcoming back after a very long hiatus. I looked it up, and it's been about 3 years. We welcome David Oshry to the program.
What's up, guys?
Have various odds and ends. How are you doing today?
Good. Busy as usual.
Indeed. Let's see. Right. As I said, we actually had you on the program in 2014 over the Rise of the Triad remake.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, and back then you were working with a company called Interceptor Entertainment. Do you still do any business with them these days?
No, I haven't worked with them since Rise of the Triad, but I keep in touch with all those guys, of course.
Good to hear. Right. So, this is more about your new company, fittingly titled New Blood Interactive.
Yes.
So, how long has New Blood existed?
I think we started it in like around beginning of 2014. I had started working at Gunner Optics back in 2013, and we started it. New Blood as kind of like a fun side project, me and my friends, and then it kind of got bigger and bigger. So I left my job at Gunner and decided to focus on New Blood full time in 2016, and I've been doing that ever since. And now we got 4 games we're working on.
Nifty.
Yeah, certainly ambitious for a new development team. Like, usually usually it's like just the one game. So how many people are working at New Blood?
About across all the games, around 20 or so.
It's a mid-sized indie team. Yeah, so. All right. And what is your position at New Blood?
I mean, technically the CEO. I mean, it's my company, so I don't know. Just the guy that does the stuff.
Well, on the indie scene, the stuff tends to be a lot of stuff. You find, right?
Yeah, I do all the, for New Blood, I do all the biz dev, marketing, trade show stuff. I'm executive producer on all the titles, so I've got final say on all the stuff that goes out. Just making sure everything gets done and gets out there. Doing our best to put out the indie games.
All of the indie games.
All of the indie games, all at once, every single one.
Like, it sounds more like Devolver.
Yeah, they're a bit bigger of a company than us, but yeah, we've got a similar taste in games. I think I know those guys real well. They're cool dudes. We definitely have similar taste in some of the games we work on.
Right. Like they published the Shadow Warrior remake, I think.
They did. That was made by Flying Wild Hog, and Devolver published it, and they just did Shadow Warrior 2.
Yeah, which is actually significantly different. Like, it's more of a loot-based FPS, I think.
Yeah, I think it was more like a Diablo-style looty-shooty.
Yeah. I gotta admit, when I saw that, I was less interested in the sequel. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, not what I would expect from, say, Shadow Warrior. But anyway, bringing up retro FPS is kind of helpful because that kind of leads into, probably the game that, if they know New Bloods is maybe what you are known for, Dusk.
Yes.
All right. So for those who might not know what Dusk is, what is it?
It's a retro FPS that takes inspiration from all the retro FPS, basically. If you like Quake, Hexen, Heretic, Redneck Rampage, Doom, Blood, that kind of stuff, then you'll probably like Dusk.
Yes, that is what initially interested me because I played a lot of 90s FPSs in the 90s, and I enjoyed pretty much all of them. It's like, was there a particular desire to bring back the 90 FPS style?
To bring back the 90 FPS style. I mean, it was all David Szymanski. I mean, he's the guy making it, and it's kind of a game that he's wanted to make since he was a kid. So when he tweeted it at me, and he said, "Hey, I'm working on this. You might be interested in it," because he knows me from my work on Rise of the Triad. He sent me a bill, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever." And 2 days later, I was working on the project with him. I'm a huge fan of that stuff, and the whole aesthetic, the low poly, limited palette look of original Quake 1 is something that's very cool. Some people are like, "Oh, it looks old." Well, it looks that way on purpose. It's a very purposeful art design. We're trying to really mimic that Quake 1 look and feel, and I think David has done a really, really good job of that. So it's cool to be getting back to that low poly N64, early 90s PC look that we've managed to obtain with Dusk, and I think people are really digging it.
Yeah, I definitely, from the footage I saw, it definitely brought back memories of not just Quake, but Redneck Rampage and Blood and all them titles. And though I do find it ironic that the aesthetic of this game is very purposeful, considering how accidental the aesthetic of Quake was. Like, for those who don't know, Quake was actually kind of a mishmash of design styles and aesthetics because of the long and tormented development process that game went through. But now, when you are designing a 90s FPS, are you like going the full style of a 90s FPS? Like if we had played this game in 1996, it would have been in place in 1996.
Basically.
I suppose
not just aesthetically, then it also has 90s style mechanics like non-regenerating health and that kind of things.
Yeah, this definitely doesn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, because like regenerating health and stuff wasn't invented until.
Once again, a little bit of backstory for those who may not have played a lot of the 90s FPSs. They were a very different style than your modern shooters or even shooters from last decade. They're very fast-paced, lots of monsters, lots of weapons, lots of secrets.
Yeah, less set-piece encounters and a lot more dealing with endurance because you couldn't just... You had to like play smart and not get your health whittled down because you couldn't just duck behind a wall to regenerate. You had to either keep healthy or find or know where limited recovery drops were.
Right, and on the upside, you weren't limited in your weapons. If you picked up a weapon, you had it for the rest of the game, and you had like 9 weapons in an FPS, and they didn't have to curtail to reality. Of course, you'd always have your standbys, your pistols, your shotguns, what have you. But you'd also have very fanciful like Tesla guns and stuff. Something that's a lot more fantasy or sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And going into all that, I suppose it begs the question. Like what? Well, first of all, like what is there a story in Dusk here?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a bit of a story. It's a kind of a 3-act structure follows. It's pretty similar to Cabin in the Woods. You wake up on a meat hook. It's kind of very similar to, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then you get to this, a town called Dusk and realize that something has gone, very, very wrong, which you realize immediately because everyone's possessed or undead and shit like that. And then under the town is a military facility where obviously they were conducting some sort of experiments because under the military facility lies like the land of the elder gods or some Cthulhu-ish stuff like that where even deeper, darker things are going on. So the deeper you go, the darker you go, the weirder it gets. And that's kind of the story. We don't give you a lot of story, just little bits and pieces of exposition. There's an ominous voice you'll hear. You'll see some things. You kind of just figure it out as you go along. Just give you enough story to kind of lead the player along. But we're obviously not a story-heavy game.
That was another typification of a lot of FPSs in the 90s. Not all of them, because this is also when Half-Life came out and changed that. But if you were playing, say, like Blood or Duke Nukem or any one of those, there's like a minimal story. You might see it in some levels, but it's kind of like I don't know. Have you played the 2016 version of Doom?
Of course, yeah. Loved Doom 2016. My game of the year.
It's like that one had a very, very deep lore if you were looking into it. But
yeah, if you wanted it, it's there. But or you could just shoot stuff.
Yeah, it's like however much lore you wanted was kind of up to you. Interesting way of handling it.
Yeah.
Now, what sorts of like weapons and monsters and all that stuff could one expect from Dusk?
The weapons we got pistol, dual pistol, shotguns, dual shotgun, super shotgun, hunting rifle, assault rifle, crossbow, sword, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, and I think that's everything. And enemies, all types. In episode 1, you've got little demon rats, you got demon goats, you got cultists, you got leathernecks, which are kind of like Leatherface chainsaw types that run at you. You got fork maidens, which are kind of like these possessed farm maidens that throw pitchforks at you. And then there's mini bosses in each episode, then bosses in each episode. Once you get to episode 2, there's going to be more soldiery, Black Mesa type enemies, and then episode 3, all kinds of crazy Cthulhu tentacle monsters and stuff like that.
Now, see, you mentioned episodes. That was another hallmark of 90s FPSs. Although that was kind of based more on shareware, and it sounds like it's going to be like very different each episode in.
Each episode's going to be very different from the last.
That brings back some memories.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to craft it just like they did back in the day. Hand built levels and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, see, back in the day, children, you didn't just get like a demo of a game. You got like basically a third of it. Now, they put out what they call the first episode, which was about 7-8 levels, not including the secrets. But they put out that to entice you to buy the entire game, and it worked for that time. Something that fell by the wayside because I don't know.
That's shareware, right?
Yes. If you played like a Duke Nukem or Doom or like any of those, they're separated into distinct episodes because the first episode was often given away for free.
Good old shareware.
Now, can you rocket jump in this game?
Of course.
I kind of figured. It's like, and along those lines, is this going to be a single player only kind of FPS?
We've also got we're gonna do arena style multiplayer, and then we're hoping to get co-op in. So it's gonna have all the things.
Yeah. In terms of multiplayer, are there going to be multiple modes, or just like deathmatch?
We'll see. We're gonna start with Dusk Match and go from there.
Makes sense. And co-op, is that like 2-player, 4-player co-op?
Probably just 2-player.
That sounds about right. And in terms of secrets, are there going to be a lot of secrets in this game?
Yeah, each level's got at least like 4 to 6 so far, and then there's even secret levels inside the levels.
Of course. It sounds like it's hitting like a lot of pretty much every trope I could think of from the 90s FPSs. Now, is this game? Are the levels actually being designed, or are they procedurally generated?
They're being designed, hand designed, no procedural generation or anything like that.
That's a bit of a contrast for, there's another one of these in development called Strafe.
Yeah, Strafe's procedurally generated roguelike, very different.
Yes.
Same, similar in graphics, but the gameplay couldn't be more different.
Definitely. And, what kind of engine is this being built in?
Unity.
It's a Unity project.
Yes.
And how's Unity been working out for you?
Great. It scales really well for everything we need. David's really familiar with it. It hasn't given us any problems yet. So far so good. I mean, the game's looking the way we want, playing the way we want, and I get about 300 FPS with VSync off on my computer, so it's running good too. No complaints thus far with Unity.
That's good to hear. I wish I could say that every time we had a developer who worked in Unity on the show, but it's not the case. Oh no. Especially in terms of like performance. Like, the performance seems to be all over the map when it comes to Unity. But I suppose that's depends on what you're doing in the system. So given that, now, is this going to be a purely mouse and keyboard driven affair, or is there going to be controller support as well?
There'll be controller support, although I wouldn't recommend it.
No, nor would I, but, it's like, it's kind of one of those facts of the matter that a lot of people do play FPSs with, controllers. It's like, yeah, definitely not something I'd recommend because, well, here's the thing. Mouse and keyboard is the way to play FPS games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get quicker aim control and significantly more button options that way.
Yeah.
That said, some people like me just aren't very comfortable playing with a mouse and keyboard. So,
well, number one is accuracy. Like, you're just much more accurate and precise with the mouse than you are with an analog stick in terms of FPSs. It's like, and if you don't believe me, go and play a multiplayer game against some mouse and keyboard players with a controller. You'll learn.
No, better yet, go play Rise and Shine.
See, the thing is, though, that you're presupposing that I have any chance of winning if I try to use mouse or keyboard either.
I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just talking.
I know.
Yeesh. Anyway. So given that, is this? Well, first of all, is this being built for Windows only, or is it going to be on Mac and Linux as well?
Hopefully Mac and Linux, because it's Unity. It shouldn't be too hard.
Right. But it sounds like those are going to be like later down the line.
We'll see. It all depends.
Fair enough. And also, given that, any potential console plans for the game?
I mean, it depends. I think it's a little fast for consoles, but if people really want it, then we're not going to say no.
Fair enough. I'm like, I can definitely tell that from like the video footage. Like, the game moves very fast, and that is definitely one of the key things I remember from FPSs in the 1990s. Just how fast they move. It's like even like FPSs from the early 2000s started slowing down due to changes in design. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just the way things changed. But so what about the music? What kind of musical style is this going for? Because is it going like ambient, hard rock?
It's definitely going for that Quake 1 Nine Inch Nails kind of vibe with definitely some metal in there. I mean, if you know Andrew Hulsholt, who worked with us on Rise of the Triad and stuff, you're familiar with the kind of stuff that he does.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting, but I wasn't sure like going to be a mix of that, or because 90s FPS soundtracks were a bit different. Some of them did the hard rock stuff, some of them did more moody and atmospheric. Like the soundtrack of Doom and like Duke Nukem 3D are rather different than, say, Quake and the Nine Inch Nails stuff.
For sure.
Right. So how far along is the game at this point?
It's pretty far. It's getting there. We're working on episode 1. That'll probably be done by the time PAX East rolls around. We're trying to have the game done this summer, but we gotta, once we're done with episode 1, we gotta build episode 2, then episode 3, then the multiplayer and the co-op. We're also working on a level editor, so I don't know when it's done. It's done. Hopefully this summer, but no promises, and we don't want to rush it. There's no need to,
True enough. I'm like, did the thought of like releasing the game episodically ever come to mind?
We've talked about it, but I'm not. I don't think we're really into doing that.
Fair enough. It's just the question comes up because the game is sort of pre-divided into episodes, so it could potentially work well that way if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, we could, but I just don't think it's something we're looking into at this point. We want to do a full release.
Mm-hmm.
Like that works out as well. But yeah, so Dusk isn't your only game currently going. So let's see, which one is like next? Okay, how about Super Galaxy Squadron EX? What's this one?
Super Galaxy Squadron EX is a shmup, so if you like Raiden and stuff like that, Galaga, then you'll like this. It's not as bullet helly as some others, but it is pretty bullet helly. And Super Galaxy Squadron EX was an update to Super Galaxy Squadron, and in the next couple of weeks we'll release Super Galaxy Squadron EX Turbo, which is another update which has new ships, new modes, and some other stuff.
You have my interest.
Yeah, if you like shmups, we call it the people shmup because it's accessible. It has, it has a health system, so you don't die in one hit and stuff like that. So it's people like it. It's a lot of fun, colorful, lots of lasers and shit. Can't go wrong. If you're looking for an accessible shmup that doesn't kick your ass and isn't super bullet helly or isn't super casual, then Super Galaxy Squadron is probably for you.
Now, from what I can see here, it's a vertical shmup, correct?
Yes.
Ooh.
The best kind.
I like my horizontal shmups too. Can't go wrong with some Gradius or R-Type.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Most of the ones I have experience with are horizontal. I'm not sure why that is.
I've experienced both quite extensively. Although when it comes to the genre, especially like modern day, it's definitely more vertical than horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
At least from like Japanese shmups. But like I don't know, when you say not too bullet helly, like I'm guessing that means like the screen doesn't fill with like literal bullets here.
Yeah, I mean, it can get pretty bullet helly, but we've even added a slow-mo bullet time feature, so anyone can get through it.
Now, is that limited, or is there a trade-off there? Because I know in some games, like, you get less score that way or something.
No, it's just limited. You get, you have to build it up as, like, a little hyper bar, and then you use it up.
Okay.
Right, and, like, how many stages are in, well,
there's 6 stages in the arcade mode, then we just added boss rush mode, and there's also an endless mode.
And... let's see. I'm not sure what else to ask on a shmup, because it is a shmup. Right. What platforms? Is it a mobile shooter? Is it a PC shooter?
It's on PC, and we're going to be working on porting it to consoles this year.
Any consoles in mind? Like, is it going to be for Xbox One and PlayStation 4?
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna put it on any consoles, including the Switch. I got friends that do porting, so we'll see how it goes.
Is this also Unity?
No, this is actually a Game Maker.
Oh. Somebody tell Naka.
Yeah, I only know a little bit about that one, but it's not as big. But I asked because Unity is one of the most port-ready engines, as far as I know.
I don't know exactly how port-friendly Game Maker is. Don't run into many people who work in that particular engine. Like, really not just the person I asked, because he works in Game Maker, I think.
Construct.
That's right. But I know he knows Game Maker. But anyway, I suppose jumping off on that, what are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch currently?
It's sweet. I want one. I'm probably gonna get one when it comes out in a few weeks. Play some Zelda and have a good time.
Oh, geez, it's next month, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming out soon. I think like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's a little. I think like half a month here. It's coming out March 3rd. Yeah, it's like, no, seriously, the Switch is a lot closer than I think a lot of people realize. But
Yeah.
I'm still probably not going to end up getting it until April just for money reasons.
Also,
it's like
good luck finding one on launch if you don't have a pre-order.
Well, yeah, that too, but
it's like I'd probably pick up a Switch, like in the fall, maybe next year. In March, if you don't have it pre-ordered, you're probably not going to get it because it's a bit of a hot ticket.
mm-hmm.
See? But anyway, let's see. Anything else you guys want to talk about on the shmup here?
No.
All right. Guess we do have other games. Jeez, I hate it when need the right window. Anyway, so next up is Tonight We Riot.
Yeah, Tonight We Riot. It's a side-scrolling crowd brawler. It's like Pikmin with Molotov cocktails. Where it takes place in dystopian future, not unlike our own, where the working class has had enough and they've decided to rise up against the powers that be and take the power back. Rah-rah socialism and all that fun stuff. And we're going to do that by throwing Molotov cocktails and bricks and anything we can get our hands on and liberating our fellow workers who are sick of unpaid overtime and shit like that.
I'm like, that's certainly a pitch. And Molotov cocktails definitely would have improved Pikmin. Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Like now, when you say Pikmin,
The art in this one is super cute. Obviously, cute isn't necessarily the main thing you're thinking of. I just like that really.
Yeah, I mean that's another
simple
thing. You don't want it to be super duper. If we made the game with super realistic graphics and stuff, it might be a bit much. I think it's a nice contrast, the pixel art versus the whole rioting. But it still gets the dystopian, helpless aesthetic across, I think, very well, and the chiptune music really, not chiptune, sorry, synthwave really just adds to that. It's very dark and ominous, but drives you forward, you and your horde of working class revolutionaries trying to take the power back for the proletariat.
Now, how many people can you recruit at a time?
You can have up to 50 or 100 little dudes on screen, which is pretty cool. When it gets pretty nuts, and they all do what you do. So you run around. If you're all punching, they're all punching. If you're throwing Molotovs, they throw Molotovs. So it gets pretty chaotic. But I mean, it is a riot.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Now, is performance smooth throughout, given that this is a pixel art title?
Yeah, no issues. It's another Unity game, so I haven't had any, haven't had any hiccups or anything yet. I mean, it's, not a very demanding game. Pixel art, like you said.
I gotta say, if it reminds me of any game, you might not have heard of this one, but it reminds me of a game called Oak.
Game called what?
Close.
Yeah, we've gotten that. Yeah, that's a game that I think Devolver put out. It's like a Greek mythology thing. Yeah, it's we've been compared to that a few times. I haven't played it, but I've seen it. It looks cool.
Yeah, it's like we know the devs, and in fact we're going to review their updated version a few weeks here. But
Sweet.
Yeah, it's definitely that style of game, only in Greek times.
Wait, do they have Greek Molotov cocktails?
I don't think they have that particular thing.
Are they throwing euros? And
I'm trying to make a Greek fire joke, but I can't because I didn't play enough Oklos.
Well, to be fair, that really wouldn't have been of the times. Like Greek fire is actually from the Byzantine era.
Mm-hmm.
It's like history was my major, so anyway. But
jokes don't have to be historically accurate. I strike a blow here for comedy.
This is true. But now, is this game out yet, or is it still being worked on?
It's being worked on. We'll have it at PAX East with our other games, and we're also looking to have this one out, sometime this summer.
Right. So, a question on all of them: are they all being internally developed, or are some of them outsourced, or what's the development structure on these titles?
I mean, they're all, all of our guys. There's teams that are working on them, and then we've got guys that jump around. So I mean, it's hard to define internal because I consider New Blood one big family, but there's teams, separate teams working within the New Blood family.
So, okay. And I'm guessing development's pretty smooth on everything.
Yeah, so far no complaints. Stuff's going good. Games are getting made.
Believe me, that's rarer than it should be in the game dev world.
Huh?
But anyway, moving to the last game here, Laser Type.
Laser Type. It's a VR typing game, multiplayer VR typing game with lasers. And if you suck at typing, it will make you better at typing. And it's
that's sure. You have a touch for interesting combinations of things.
Yeah, well, I like unique stuff. I don't want to make the same kind of stuff that everyone else is making. I like my games to stand out. But yeah, it's a multiplayer VR typing game with lasers and synthwave. And that's getting close to. We're probably gonna put that one on early access within the next couple of months or so, and then work on working that into the educational space, maybe getting into colleges and schools and stuff. Then the one thing the laser type has that other typing games don't have is the fact that since it's a VR game, you can't cheat. So it really forces you to get better, whereas other typing games.
Oh yeah, you can't look at the keyboard.
Yeah, you can't look down. We have a virtual keyboard, but it won't really help you the same way as actual cheating can. With games like I don't know if you remember Mario Teaches Typing or Mavis Bacon, stuff like that. You can always cheat. You can't cheat in laser type, so it really forces you to get better. And the improvements I've seen people make in a really short period of time are pretty remarkable.
That does sound interesting. It's not quite the most interesting typing tool I've ever heard of because the typing of the dead exists, but it does.
Well, I was gonna say it sounds a little bit like that, only VR and neon instead.
Yeah,
of...
typing of the dead, is a very cool game, and it's sold really well too, really popular.
Oh, no doubt. It's just that, like, if you've ever played it, it's kind of insane because it's House of the Dead 2, except as a teaching tool.
Insane might be underselling it a bit there, Adam.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't and that's actually not the most insane version of that because they a few years ago did a version of House of the Dead Overkill, except it's typing of the Dead Overkill.
Yep.
Because, okay, if you've never played House of the Dead Overkill, it's basically Grindhouse as a rail shooter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I played on the Wii, so I'm just talking about.
Yeah. It's pretty out there. Now speaking of VR, is Dusk gonna have VR support?
Probably not.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me because
it's not really trying to be realistic enough for VR to work well, I don't think.
Also, with as fast as it moves, you'd be throwing up.
That too.
Yeah, I'm one look at this game and going, yeah, if this were in VR, if you're prone to motion sickness, even a little, you're probably gonna feel it.
Your carpet's gonna get a new change of color real fast.
Yeah, I avoid VR overall because of fear of that.
Well, it's also VR is very expensive.
That too.
That too. It ain't cheap.
No. It's even the PlayStation VR is what, $400, $500?
Not including the PlayStation needed to run it.
No, not including the PlayStation. I'm just talking about the kit itself.
Yeah.
I think it's $300, $400 for the glasses and another $100 for the Move controllers. Yeah, that's not even getting into the PC side of things. But yeah, let's see. Right, I think that'll about do it.
Yes, that is all the games that I am currently working on, barring some of the super top secret projects that I haven't turned into games yet.
Of course, and I'm sure we'll hear about those in due time. Any last questions from my cohorts here?
No.
Not me.
All right.
Yeah, I guess not. I was thinking about. I guess you don't have much you could say about things that you were planning on working up ahead, but I was just maybe curious a little bit about how you come up with the ideas of what kind of games you want to work on.
They get, people pitch me games, and I come up with ideas for games. Me and my friends come up with ideas. It just happens, when you're as knee deep in, game stuff as I am, game ideas and concepts and prototypes are always just floating around. So you just try to work on the ones that you think are gonna turn into something fun. And sometimes they turn into full games, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're just game jam things. But there's always a million projects out there that could potentially turn into full games.
Well, do you have game jams at New Blood?
Yeah, we participate in a few. Yeah.
Makes sense. Ideas got to come from somewhere.
Yep.
All right, I think I'm about to do it. David, thank you once again for joining us on the program.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, it was good catching up. It's really interested in what you got going here. I, for one, am looking forward to your projects. I'm looking forward to playing Tonight with Riot and Dusk. Hopefully, we can review those in the future.
Sweet.
But yeah, so that's New Bloods Interactive. I think Super Galaxy Squadron EX is available currently, correct?
Yeah, it's out on Steam, and Turbo will be a free upgrade if you already have it. So go buy it before we raise the price for Turbo, so you can get it on that price that it's at now.
Yeah, it looks like it's currently $10 with a soundtrack for 2 if you're interested in that.
Yeah, and Turbo, I think we're gonna raise the price to 12 whole dollary dues, but it'll be a free upgrade to anybody who already owns the game. So, and then Tonight We Riot and Dusk will hopefully be out this summer. Laser Type will hopefully be out in the next few months, and then onward and upward with other stuff. If you want to find me, I'm at Dave Oshry on Twitter. Our games are newblood.games. Us on Twitter at the Newbloods. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Thank you kindly, and hopefully we'll have you back on the program whenever your next batch of projects are ready for development.
Yeah, another 3 years.
It's we'll see. All right. Anyway, Pettyfan, play us to the next segment. Welcome to the topic of discussion. For those who are just joining us, this is where we talk about a particular, topic, system, game, what have you. And this week we're talking about Steam Greenlight and Steam Direct. So, in case you haven't heard the news this week, Valve has announced that at long last, Steam Greenlight is going to die a very, very, I can't say merciful death, because there is not enough mercy in the universe for that system, but it is going to be axed sometime in the spring. So the plan here is Steam Greenlight is still a thing that exists as of this broadcast.
I imagine they have to work through all the games that are already in it.
Probably. We're not exactly sure how all of this is going to work. The plan is Steam Greenlight is going to be replaced by a new service called Steam Direct. And how Steam Direct is going to work, once again, we don't know all the details, but what's been laid out so far is it's going to be a much more paperwork and monetary service.
Whereas Greenlight is primarily a fairly token fee and then a popularity contest.
Right. So the way Steam Direct is supposed to be working here is you fill out your paperwork, you fill out your fee, and then you're going to get your game onto the service. And of a special note, it's a per game fee. It's a per game thing. It's if you've already submitted a game to Steam Direct, you've got to do it again.
Which we have no idea what the fee is going to be either, because I think they were talking about everything from like $100 to $5,000, which $5,000 is ridiculous, but
yeah, I'm like, okay, the fee has really, really, really lit the development community on fire, because depending on what the fee is, it's also, it's a punitive measure. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, they're trying to. I mean, the main flaw or one of the main flaws with Steam Greenlight is that people completely game the system and do everything they can to get votes on Greenlight, even when their games absolutely don't deserve it. This is designed to basically eliminate the possibility of doing that and just make it, can you afford to get the game on, and then does the game physically function on the computers you say it will?
Right.
Which I guess the biggest advantage of this, I guess, is that it's no longer pretending to be an effective curation method.
Okay. But theoretically, this should stop the asset flips.
It should stop people from trying to make games for like minimum time and effort. The problem is that not everybody who makes good games can afford big fees to get their games on a service.
Yeah, well, for an example, friend of the show, Madam Barry, ranted about this on Twitter because, she can't afford, $5,000. She can't afford $500. It's like that's the big problem with this monetary policy. Is it's not so much going to keep out the asset flippers out. It might, but it's definitely going to keep out your super indie people, who are like working on their first game, who are working on very small games,
Yeah, well, $5,000 is more than their entire budget.
Yeah, and I think they did say that fee is supposed to be recoupable somehow, but again, there have been no details of any such thing. So
actually, that is incorrect. They've actually detailed how this is going to work.
Oh, they have? They hadn't last time I checked. My mistake.
Okay, so let me lay it out here. The way it's going to work is if you can't pay it up front, then you'll pay it via sales. Like, once your game goes on sales, whatever revenue you generate first goes to, let's call it the Steam debt. Then it goes to you once that's been paid off.
That sounds
yeah, that's basically what's going on here. You're basically going to go into debt to Steam to get your games on Steam.
And that if you're not going to get the money back for that, then some people, that'll be a problem for them.
Yeah,
right.
Very risky.
Yeah, it's like, so Steam Direct is definitely better in the sense that just about anything would be better than Steam Greenlight. But Steam Greenlight and Steam Direct are kind of born from the same mentality. And it's a deliberate avoidance of what Steam really needs to do, what Valve really needs to do, and that's hire some goddamn people to sift through the fucking games and play them.
Yep.
Now, that's the fucking issue right here. And there are two reasons why they don't want to do that. One is money. Hiring people, to do that will cost money. It is a vastly more expensive solution than either Steam Direct or Steam Greenlight. Now, but it's also,
it would also actually result in some balance of the, quality control on the shop, of which there is currently very little, and is looking like there's still going to be very little.
Swamped.
Well, it's also so. We've been doing game dev stuff, not so much with the show, but MSP as well. But we've done, we were doing this back when it was, the old system,
Yeah.
like pre Greenlight.
Back when it was a privilege to get on Steam, not everybody and their brother could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because people forget how fucking gated Steam was. At one
Oh
point.
God.
And that's me.
Yeah.
That's mainly because Steam would reject games summarily out of hand multiple times, and games would have to go to say like GOG to get big before they could get into like This is something I've never agreed with the likes of Jim Sterling. The open gates being bad. It's bad, but not in that fucking way. Because games got dismissed because there was one person working the indie field.
Mm-hmm.
One person.
So even that needed more people.
Yes, and that gets down to the big problem here, and that's Valve doesn't want to change their company philosophy. People don't understand just how small Valve is. Like,
Well, they're bigger than they used to be, but yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple of hundred employees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're not that big, and that's one of the reasons why they don't want to hire an army of gatekeepers, let's call them.
Yeah.
Because it's also Valve is very fluid with its roles. They don't want to be like the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, Apple's App Store policing isn't perfect. It's got its own problems. It's a damn sight better than what they got on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just filtering out the bad asset clips. It's filtering out games that don't work, games that have shit frame rates. Just broken fucking games that get through because
no one was checking, basically.
Yeah, well, it's because they base their gatekeeping on a fucking popularity system.
Mm-hmm.
Which was supposed to be this. I don't know what the fuck it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. The popularity system, I guess, in theory, the idea of that, if enough people really want a game to be on the service, then maybe that game should be on the service. The problem is that there's no way to make that actually happen, as opposed to it just being like, hey, I'll give you a copy of this game if you vote for it to be on Greenlight.
Or
Right.
not just their game, just like, hey, you want Batman Arkham Knight or whatever? I'll give you a copy of that if you vote for my game.
Yeah, the basic fact of the matter is Steam Greenlight, opened the gates to a lot of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way to put it. It sounds silly when you think about it, but it's true. Like, you got people bribing audiences through game keys, coverage, what have you.
Hell, even Steam Wallet codes and some things.
Yeah, it's like, it's basically mass scale bribery.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of chilling, like, when you think about it. But yeah, it's like, and that led rise to the fucking digital homicides of the world. And this system going away is good.
Yeah, I don't think there's much debate that Greenlight going away as it is bad. The real problem is that what they're replacing it with isn't necessary. This is a mixed thing, because the thing that they're replacing it with is in many ways not better, but at least it's not pretending to be better than it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, some evils are necessary sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, for the service to actually improve, Valve just has to hunker down and pay some people to sift through, the submissions.
Yeah, like
And
20, 30 people, they could easily hammer this shit out.
yeah, it's like, and I do get it. Like, Steam is getting more and more games by the day.
I think it was something like 2014 to now is like 200% increase in Steam listings or something like that.
2016 saw 40% of Steam games released.
Ah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so the floodgates have definitely been open, and that's ultimately, that's better than, the super walled garden. But it's also, you've got to curate. Valve has to curate. Leaving curation.
Like, I understand. Like, the idea of letting your fans curate too is also a good idea, but that doesn't get you off the hook for doing it.
You gotta have some measures in place.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like it's frustrating because Valve is probably never going to change on this method.
The easiest solution is a solution they don't want to take because it involves them changing.
Well, yeah, and once again, it also involves much more money than they're willing to shell out. Because these are much more cost-effective solutions, but there's also a reason why Valve is the only ones who do this kind of thing. Like, yeah, Apple, for all their faults, they're not, they're going to make sure, things run right, and, to the best of their abilities. I mean, it's like, and if they're worried about shit, buggy games, unplayable games, prank games, that sort of shit, filtering in, if they've got this system in place, well, I'm like, that shit's already there.
Hell, I think the only thing we really haven't had make it on Steam yet is fucking games that put ransomware on your computer, and that's like the only thing they filter out.
I thought I heard about one of those at one point too, but I could be mistaken.
I've heard about something like that on the Android marketplace, but
that might have been it.
Occasionally, some games get false identified as some sort of miraculous software, but that's just fault to antiviruses and such.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just exasperating now, because there are easy ways to make it work, but they just don't want to put the effort in.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's really no way for them to change it until it gets as bad as fucking Steam Greenlight gets. Just years and years. Like, Steam Greenlight's been around for what, 4 or 5 years?
Something like that. It's been around for a while.
And it had to get to this point for them to finally say, enough is enough. We're going to improve the system. It's just and yeah, it's like it's going to filter out some of the shit. It's going to filter out the broken shit, the really bad shit. Probably not going to filter out the asset flippers, because they'll probably have enough capital to get past the, it's like.
Well, I think the goal is they're trying to make it less profitable for asset flippers by putting a higher upfront cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, that doesn't guarantee it'll actually stop them, and the problem is that it will stop people who can't develop and have a lot of money left over.
It also begs the question of who's doing the evaluating, because okay, who's reading the paperwork? Who's looking over who's looking over all this stuff?
Yeah, if they have if it's just some computer doing it, or
Yeah, automated diagnostic software and stuff is not going to cut it, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like some transparency is needed. It's like I'm not. It's like, because we've got some idea of what Steam Direct is going to be, but not enough of it. Like, seriously, the paperwork thing is like one of the most concerning things, because I'm like, how many people are going to be looking over this?
Yeah, are we just throwing it into a bin that no one's ever going to look at?
Yeah, because once again, because that kind of follows along what I'm talking about. Like, you've got to have people looking over this. Otherwise it becomes just a rubber stamp, and the system's kind of defeated. So.
Because that would stop the maybe 3 people who don't have the patience to fill out some paperwork?
Possibly, but it's like we also don't know how, because they said they compared it to going through getting a bank account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like including research and shit like that. But it's like, once again, that's thing that requires resources, requires people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and if you're doing that anyway, maybe have them make sure the games work.
Yeah.
Before giving the thumbs up, because I'm really concerned that Steam Direct isn't going to serve its intended purpose, much like Steam Greenlight. Steam doesn't.
It'll just end up making them more money per game, but still just as much shit on the store.
Yeah. And one question that I don't really know about yet is this for when the game is, ready to go, or is it similar to Greenlight where you could put on Greenlight while you're still in development?
Yeah, because Greenlight is the thing that they do early on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen Kickstarters that were greenlighted before the Kickstarter even started.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's another question that we have. If this is only for when you're ready to go, you get through Direct, you're on the storefront in a week or two, or if
more time than expected, because given the apparatus that they're proposing here, that's going to require more than just an upvote system. Right.
Yeah, I do think that it's at least not pretending to be a good quality control measure, really.
Sip.
Right. So I think that'll about do it at this point in regards to Steam Direct. We'll probably have a follow-up on this once more details are known. Indeed. That'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon.
Are expecting to have Moonhawk's videos, and
well, it's like I'd be very surprised if we didn't, because Mac's big Indiegogo campaign is about to launch here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's pretty gung-ho about it.
So, like I said, I'm fully expecting that to launch during that broadcast. Anyway, so coming up in the week ahead, as far as Fragments is concerned, on Sunday, we only have one review this week. We're reviewing the Capo 3R from Manga Gamer. It's the very big visual novel. I gotta admit, I don't know how much of this I'll be playing.
Well, I think the huge amount of time figure they gave does include all routes, so completing one route or two might be more plausible than trying to do all of them. But
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how long even a route lasts. Like visual
that's
novel,
true.
That could still be like 15, 20 hours. So keep that in mind. Anyway, and coming up next week, we have Philip Doschel of FDG Entertainment on Tuesday. They are making Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, which is a spiritual successor to the Wonder Boy series. And they're also going to be the first confirmed Switch developer on the program. Like they are actively porting their games to the Nintendo Switch. So I don't know how much they can talk about the Nintendo Switch, but it's definitely more than they would have been even a little more over a month ago. And on Wednesday, we will be having, so far confirmed, Adrian Bauer and Jonathan Gear of D-Pad Studio, the Owlboy developer.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. And until MSP starts, I wish you good gaming.